Hello everyone, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today's a little different. I'm using a new cell phone to record, so if I adjust during this video at all, it's just me kind of just getting used to the video camera. I am playing around with something very interesting today. This is going to be pre-mounted Xuan paper. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correct. It's the Japanese, Chinese rice paper that's used to paint on, and it is pre-mounted. So usually when you paint on the Japanese or Chinese papers, it's kind of a thin, almost translucent type paper that you're working with, and at a later date you have to mount it. Now, I had started out water media with Chinese brush painting, and mounting it for me was super difficult. I wound up using an iron. I used these glue strips that were used, or glue paper that was used in photography, and I would mount it onto like Bristol board, and it was just a lot of work. There's different methods for mounting. I never tried any of the other ones. But like I said, they have pre-mounted paper. So this paper is already adhered to something else. And doing that really brings out the beauty, especially of the transparent papers. So this one, and they sell it in a whole bunch of different sizes, packs of 10. This one is obviously a rectangle. They have circular shapes, they have fan shapes, they have different colored paper. They might have it where it's white mounted on the, let's just say brown tan paper. They might have fibrous paper, etc. So it's a really cool thing to check out, and it might be something that you find interesting. Pack of 10 seems to run on Amazon for, I don't know, let's say $10 to $12. Oh, it seems like our camera is a little tilted, so let me just adjust that. Okay, let's see. So yeah, enough rambling on my part. Let's jump into this. And like I said, if you ever want to try this out, check out Premounted Xuan, Xuan paper on Amazon. Let's take a combination brush. So this has soft hairs on the outside, stiffer hairs on the inside. And it just gives different effects. I'm gonna mix some water, grab some, and I'm just going to kind of make up a composition and just have fun. I have a lot of water on the brush, but it is, it's not really a brush I use often. As you know, I usually use my hake brush, but you could get some really awesome and fun textures with these Chinese brushes. We'll see how this paper handles. Like a rocky outcropping. And as I mentioned, there are various papers that you can get, and looking into the different types just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea. They'll have raw paper, and they'll have I don't know what they call it on raw. I guess I don't know if it's like half sized, etc. There's different papers that they have, and those different papers have different attributes, where some will allow the spreading of the ink, and the sized paper will kind of resist that. And it gives for different effects, and it allows for different styles of painting. The sized paper, I believe, is used for more meticulous type painting. I believe in the Chinese style, that's called gongbi, the meticulous style. The more the paper that's more absorbent and allows the ink to flow, that's for xeiyu, I believe the pronunciation is, which is kind of a fast and loose style. I do have a lot of water on the brush, so I could suck water out by grabbing around the base right there. You see how I didn't even touch the end of this and I pulled up that much water? I think we'll open up the scene. We'll have water come through here. This will be kind of grassland, and I'll play around in the background and the foreground some. Distant shore. And hopefully the camera will pick up the different gradients that were just created back there. If you want to emphasize it, we can take some stronger ink and just feed in for these distant mountains. I'm going to tie those through back here. Have a lighter mix. That's going to push it too far forward, but we're experimenting and we're playing around. Actually, why don't we add some patterns in the sky and see what can happen from that. So the thing with this, which I think may make people a little reluctant to try this, is the price. But I'm going to do a little quick math for you. I'm going to throw some ideas and numbers at you. So let's say a 10 pack of this was $12 on Amazon. And let's say after, I don't know, shipping, taxes, whatever, let's make it 15, just so we have a nice even number. So it's $1.50 for one of these. If you're using Stonehenge Aqua, which is about $4 for a large sheet, that's what I use, and I tear it into fourths. That makes a paper about $1 for me to use. It's not too much different. In fact, if you're using arches, you're paying about $1.50 for an 11 by 14 when you tear it up. So it kind of puts it into perspective a little bit. If you're buying pads of paper, pads usually seem to be almost double the price of what you're paying for a sheet. So if you're using a pad, each sheet, let's say, is running you about $2 of our Stonehenge, then this is about 50 cents cheaper than a sheet pad. Just to kind of put that into perspective, a bottle of Chinese ink or Sumi ink, there are differences. There's some made from vegetable resin and some made from soot. So there's different types out there. And there's some with shellac in it and some not. But I think the liquid ink is probably anywhere from $8 to $20 if this is something you had wanted to get into and try. The negative, the outside of this paper is 13 by 13, I believe, which I'm not going to pretend to understand or know what the dimensions are for Chinese and Asian artwork, what the standard is. There's definitely a standard present, I just don't know what it is off the top of my head. But in Western watercolors, Western art, we have our typical 8 by 10, 5 by 7, 11 by 14, and then we go to 16 by 20. And there's kind of a ratio there taking place. And then with the Asian arts, there's a different ratio used. That's standard, So a 13 by 13 a frame, I have no idea if those are readily available or not. So that would be something that I think would be a little bit reluctant. But if you have your own frames made, I think you're at a point where you're far surpassed me, and that's something that you could probably get into really easily then, if you wanted to experiment. The other thing, and this is what I've been kind of tempted to do, is cut one of these sheets to like a 5 by 7 or an 8 by 10 and paint on that, and then mat it in traditional Western. This is a very dark I looked at it through the camera. I am using quite a bit of ink. There's really not much subtlety in this. The painting, the paper, I'm enjoying the paper. I really like the color of it. If I had a ink that I could use to tone my watercolor paper this color, I think I would do quite a bit of that. Let's see, we're still wet over here, yeah. And Percy's underneath my art table by the cables, and I can hear her back there. She better not start scratching at any the cables. She turns 1 on the 12th of June, and Naga, our bearded dragon, coincidentally has the same birthday. She will be turning 2. And I think, never having had kittens before, that there must be some sort of like terrible ones stage that kittens get into at this age, because she has been all over the place. So in future paintings, I'm going to start a lot thinner mixture, a lot lighter, but I'll utilize less water. So I'll thin it out, and then I'll get a nice dry brush effect. That'll probably be the next experiment on this paper. I do have some papers that are probably circular shaped from when I had done the Chinese painting 3 years ago. And I think I do have some long scroll shaped ones. So I will look into that. And if you like, I can do more videos on this paper. But the heaviness of my hand is going to have to be held back. Bringing that dark, moody sky through. Those clear spots wouldn't really exist. Like to darken the corners of the paintings. It's an imaginary scene. I think it'd be fun to interpret a photograph onto this. I have been really enjoying painting from photographs lately. In fact, there's a gentleman from Australia named Guy who sent me some photos from Australia, and he asked me if I could paint from them, or invited me to paint from them. And I want to do that. I didn't do that today because there's some stuff going on family-wise. So an in-depth landscape painting was not in the cards. It does hold quite a bit of water. Let's see how it looks through this. Unfortunately, the subtleties aren't really showing through too much in the video. It looks very abstract when I stand up and look through it. What I'm going to do is pause it and do a dry off, and we'll see if there's a tonal shift that takes place. Alright, so I dried it off. There are some areas that feel a little cool wet still, so it means they're still a little damp, but there was a tonal shift that took place. A lighting up, which I think we could probably exploit with a crisper layer of ink, just like we do in the watercolor. I'm still using the same brush. A smaller brush would probably be beneficial, but I'm going to try to exploit the textured effect that I can get from it, as well as the shortening of time, because we can get more down on there. Let's bring it, this guy up high. I'm going between giving a fine point and a textured effect. Get a little bit more water on there. So, cool news is that next week is the last week of the school year, so I'll be done with work for 2 months and have a lot of time to paint and experiment. I'll try not to overwhelm the channel with videos. This year has felt like 2 or 3 years rolled into one. And I'm hoping by the time school starts up, and we start in August 7th is probably when teachers go back. I know the calendar's there, but I haven't looked at it yet. August 7th is when teachers go back, and give or take, and then we'll get the students back a few days later. So we start a little bit sooner than some other states. Let's do another layer of trees. Let's do I had placed an order on Jerry's Artorama for more watercolor paper, especially since I'm in gonna be in super painting mode now. And I'm kicking myself because they have, I think it's called Panda's Blackest Chinese ink, something like that, on Jerry's Artorama. And it was like $12. And I didn't realize, because they just show a picture of a porcelain type vase, you know, that kind of traditional white and blue. And apparently the ink is in that, which you wouldn't think that it'd be in like a vase or a vase. And they didn't show any pictures of the ink, but that would have been cool to have. So I guess next time I place an order, if I remember, I'll order that. Sometimes there's a real novelty and excitement in using something that's different and unique and doesn't come in plastic, you know. But it's very easy to fall into that idea, thinking that stuff will be better if it's coming in a different form. But I think it would just be cool. By the way, of course, you know, always, if you have questions, comments, ideas, let me know in the comments. I do have the Patreon, which has exclusive content, and that's a good way to support this channel, as well as liking and subscribing. If you ever want to purchase anything, let me know. I have the Etsy down below. Let's see. And if you ever want me to try to paint something, I have plenty of social media stuff that you could contact me through. Because you might just be like, somebody had said a cotton bowl. Have you ever tried one? And no, I had not. And I tried it out, and I had a lot of fun with it. So, you know, I'm always up for the challenge. I couldn't mention that gentleman, guy from Australia. I want to try some of the Australian scenes. I think they're in fall right now, he was saying. Well, today it's 86 degrees out here in Louisiana. All right. So, I'm going to pause and do a dry off. And okay, so it's dried off. I'm going to remove the camera from its stand. Let's just bring it close, just so you can see kind of a little bit more detail and texture. I'm still getting used to this camera and to this phone. There's one setting that kind of zooms it out, and it would show like the whole table. But I don't know if I could press it right now mid-video. I'm going to experiment with that. Let's do it. This appears when, oh. Yeah, see, that was a zoom out right there. I'll zoom back in. Well, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll be back soon with more videos. Y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all soon.